Welcome or welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. I do appreciate it. If you're new here, my name is Isabel, and on this channel I share my journey to becoming a full-time artist. And this week I'm taking you through the journey of this little sketchbook I started a year ago. So it's a journey of a year of graphite drawings in this little tiny but mighty sketchbook. Instead of doing a chronological sketchbook tour, which is more of a traditional way of doing that, I've decided to break it down into the themes that have emerged during the year. So flowers, insects, birds, etc. And then I also wanted to go through some of the pieces that, in my opinion, were complete failures, and then others that have actually become some of my favorite of the year in this sketchbook. Now, before I get into these details, I wanted to start with a quick flip through the whole sketchbook just to give you an overview. So this little sketchbook is a pocket portrait size by Handbook Company. I found it on Amazon. I'm sure you could buy it in an art store. And yeah, I have spent countless hours in this little sketchbook in the past year. I don't time myself when I draw, but maybe that's something that I should start doing in 2025 just to get an idea of how long some of my drawings take. These drawings are, I would say, 98% done in graphite. There's an occasional drawing in colored pencil in here. And my goal with this sketchbook was to make it pretty. I really wanted to have only finished drawings and hand lettering in here, but as you'll see later in the video, well, there were some epic fails, so it's not as perfect as I wanted it to be, but such is life, right? And then my inspiration for all of these drawings was, I would say, very seasonal, or just kind of what inspired me in the moment. And you'll have seen me draw most of these during my vlogs. And also I've shared a lot of those drawings on Instagram if you follow me there. If you don't follow me, please do. I'll put the link in the description below. So let's dive into the themes that have emerged from this sketchbook. The first theme to emerge from this sketchbook is flowers. I've always loved drawing flowers, and I'm inspired by what's blooming in my neighborhood. I guess that's why it's mainly the first half of my sketchbook has flowers in it, because I was inspired by what was growing in my neighbor's yards. I do not have a yard, unfortunately. So I drew like daffodils, probably somewhere around in March. And then there is the occasional random flower. This is a camellia that I think I drew from a reference photo. Then iris season came around. I drew a lot of flowers in the spring. Lilacs, I really love lilacs. They smell so good. And they were really blooming everywhere in my neighborhood, so of course I had to draw them. The only, I guess, challenge with those is they're really tiny flowers, and this sketchbook is quite small. But I really love what I did with the shading for the leaves. And also I was starting exploring mixing ribbons with my botanical art. This is something I'm still working on. Peonies are some of my favorite flowers, and I'm also super pleased about how this came out. And then there's a poppy, Icelandic poppy. Again, some of my favorite flowers. I could have added a bit more contrast, I think. These flowers, I remember I drew the week of my birthday, because there's a saying in French that says, girls are born in roses and boys are born in cabbage. So it was my birthday. I figured I'd draw roses. I was very pleased with how this turned out, so much so that I turned this rose into a sticker. This is on a clear backing, as you can see here. And if you're interested in purchasing any of my stickers, actually I'll have a link in the description below. But yeah, I really loved how these turned out. I actually also made a print out of this, but those are sold out. Now to show you the difference, this I drew from a reference photo, and this rose I drew more like from my imagination. And for some reason I did a lot of layers of petals. I think it's less successful, but it's cute nonetheless. And then the season, I think that must have been in August, because there's one more rose here, but that's it for the rest of my sketchbook. If you followed my vlogs this year, I have drawn a lot of birds, a lot of blackbirds actually. So some birds in this sketchbook, and then a lot of other birds on just other pieces of paper. I like to use watercolor paper to draw when I'm not drawing in a sketchbook. This is sort of a stylized bird. One thing I've struggled with is drawing bird feet. So I've compromised a lot in either stylizing the feet or using ribbon. This is a grackle, which a beak that's probably way too long. This is a red-winged blackbird. Actually, this one I worked on drawing feet that were somewhat realistic, but also starting to use that theme of using ribbon to represent a branch. It kind of represents the energy of the bird also. This bird was more of a quick sketch actually. That's not really entirely a finished drawing, but I kind of like the feel of it. Again, another blackbird. So see how now I've started merging the feet or the legs with the ribbon instead of drawing any feet at all. And this is a merle bird, which I have also turned into a sticker, again with clear backing. I really like this little guy. This is a bird I attempted at adding more texture to the feathers. Normally I play more with contrast, not necessarily adding a lot of details to the feathers of the birds I draw. This is more recent. This is a spotted pardalote, again on a ribbon. I just recently done a couple of those. This is a chestnut-backed tanager, or tanager, I'm not sure how you say that. Very pretty bird, again on a ribbon. And this is a European goldfinch. Again, the bird's on a ribbon. And I think that's kind of something that's sort of defines my style a little bit, drawing birds on ribbons. Yeah. Actually, this spread, it's kind of spells out bird watching. And I'll get into that a little bit later. I also like rebus. Birds have definitely been a very big theme in my art this year. The third theme that is emerging from this sketchbook is insects. And I've drawn insects sometimes in a more surreal manner, just like this scarab with an eye. For me, the eye represents consciousness, and I believe everything has consciousness. But this was interesting to work on. I was trying to really try to capture, the reflective texture of a scarab, that it can be very shiny, which I think is semi-successful here, but I really love the eye. In the same sort of manner, I drew this ladybug, and instead of having all the dots, I replaced some of them with eyes, which again gives it kind of a surreal taste. And that was kind of a fun thing to do. I've also drawn quite a few butterflies this year, actually, in the second part of the year. I like how my shading work is on this one. These are more simple drawings of butterflies. These two, the moth and the butterflies, are some of my favorite drawings of the year. This moth particularly, which again I have turned into a sticker, which also has a clear backing. And I've enjoyed working on all the little details, and again I think the eye is very successful. So this was really fun to draw, and again I continued with my like surreal theme of bugs and eyes in them. I tried that with a cicada and was less successful. I think I rushed through the process and some of this didn't turn out the way I wanted to, but maybe I'll do it again. And then more butterflies. Again, this I feel was very successful in terms of how smooth my shading was, which last time I also made a sticker out of this butterfly. And again, I put some eyes on this butterfly. And this is my most recent one, playing with ribbons also. The execution of this drawing isn't very well done. I don't know if you can tell. It's a little streaky. I think there could be more contrasts. So I'll probably redraw this at some point. And yeah. The fourth theme that emerges from my sketchbook is anything sea related. So if you follow my vlog, you'll know I live near a big body of water called Lake Michigan, which sometimes looks like the sea. And I don't know, I was kind of inspired to draw coral. That was, I think, in September sometime. So that's a tiny piece of coral. Also urchins. I have this one. More coral. I like how this looks a bit sort of three-dimensional. And oh yes, I drew some shells. This could use a little bit more contrast, I feel like. And the shape in this one is a little bit wonky. I wasn't super happy with this one. I really like this urchin. I put a lot of work in the details of this one and really trying to work on more contrast. And then I forgot to mention this bird earlier, which is a seagull. The next theme emerging in this sketchbook has to do with ribbon hand lettering. So hand lettering is something I've loved doing for many, many years, but I've never really delved into it like in much depth for some reason. And this year I really wanted to reconnect with hand lettering, and I chose to focus on ribbon hand lettering because apparently I have a sort of obsession with ribbon. So and I focused on kind of words of encouragement like this one, and also some quotes that I like. This actually is a little bit streaky. I'm not totally happy with that. And this is something I want to carry on to 2025, and also would love to animate some of this ribbon hand lettering. I love how this turned out. Might turn those into stickers eventually. This quote, "The future is now," is something I drew around the US election actually, because you know, it was kind of a decision we made. Voting affects the future, but it's also a quote that represents, for me, at least the way I interpret it, is there's only the now moment, really, and you can think of time as a linear concept, which is how we experience it as human, but I think in reality, time is actually stacked upon itself. And so everything is now, whether it's your past, your future, the present, actually everything is stacked in the now, if that makes sense. But yeah, I like this quote, which I've picked up. I'm not really sure actually what it comes from. It's something I saw on a poster years ago. And then I drew this little grateful hand lettering for Thanksgiving just last month. And I think it needs a bit more contrast to be more effective. But yeah, hand lettering is something I will definitely work on a bit more this coming year in 2025. I think it should be pretty fun, and also, like I said, try to animate some of that. So yeah. The last theme that sort of emerges from my sketchbook is about crystals. If you watch my vlogs, you'll know I have a lot of crystals around. I love their energy, and they're just so pretty, you know. Actually started this sketchbook with a sphere crystal of a rose quartz, and then went on to draw some clear quartz and really trying to capture that sense of transparency, which is, you know, sort of a challenge. Tried different shapes, and I can't say those are not very successful. This amethyst point is a little better. The one I think is most successful is this one, a clear quartz. I think it was this one actually. I think I managed to capture some of its depth and transparency, and then with the shadow adds really much more depth. And I did another clear quartz. This isn't as successful. I think I rushed through this way too much. This is a candle quartz, which I could add a bit more shading to add more depth to it as well, but I think it's fairly successful. And finally, those I drew, I think last night or a couple nights ago, in amethyst point, and then this, I don't know which one this is, maybe a sunstone or something, this little crystal here. Yeah, I think they're pretty nice, and I'll for sure include more crystals in my work next year. And finally, there's a few random things I drew in this sketchbook. For instance, this woodpecker feather that I found in one of my walks that I really like this feather. Also, eyes. I love drawing eyes, and this is a rebus, ICU, so combining images with words. I really love how this turned out. A strawberry, just, I don't know, I guess I felt like drawing a strawberry then, and I think it's very successful. The pages on my sketchbook are a little bit dirty. I sprayed most of the pages with fixative, but I think it still transfers a little bit. And yeah, so sometimes the pages are a little bit dirty. Another feather, let's see, and just ribbon by itself, kind of practicing my shading. And you've also, if you've been following my channel, you'll notice I started drawing a little treasures series. So for instance, I have in this box, a tin box from my hometown in France, I have all kinds of little things that I've collected or that were given to me, and I decided to make a little drawing series about it. So like I found this butterfly wing actually on my doormat. I don't know, that must have been 2-3 months ago. And then I had this little blue jay feather, an acorn, anise seed, and there's a bird lurking. I was kind of starting to build a little story around those treasures and how a blackbird, you know, such as a crow or a raven, would be collecting them. Then just a red ribbon. I drew it twice because I was drawing it as I was talking, and I found that was very difficult. So I drew it again, and it's a little bit bigger, it was easier to draw. Again, more ribbons. I think that shading work is very successful because it's very smooth. I absolutely love this ribbon because if you can see here, the way the layers are superimposing onto each other, I can see some sort of transparency, and that's something I'm interested in working on more next year, is this work of transparency, like these ginkgo leaves. Yeah, like you can see the one below it, and that's something that I'd like to work on more, if that makes sense. More ribbons. I told you I'm obsessed with ribbons. And again, and this is my most recent ribbon piece, again as a shading exercise. And really the key, if you're wondering how do you get a very smooth shading such as this, the key is to slow down. Actually, working in graphite has taught me to be more patient. If I really take my time to work on a piece, even a simple piece like that, the result will be 10 times better than rushing through it. Another sort of random thing I've been drawing lately are these mandarins with leaves on them that I find at the supermarket at this time of year, like around Christmas. Again, sort of working on my shading and adding contrast to create this sort of three-dimensional, which is, I think, semi-successful. I think it could be better. Another random thing I was drawing was this pothos plant propagating in water, which is actually a drawing I've drawn in pen before, but I wanted to draw it in this little sketchbook in graphite with an eye. And this little crab claw was from my little treasure series, sort of part 2. And also this button, which doesn't look like a button because I drew it from the front. I should have drawn it from the side. And yeah, rose hips, just because I felt like it. Yeah, and then another citrus is this little lemon I drew just recently. And I really love the smoothness of the shading on this, but again, I took my time. So I'll still have a few pages, just a few, to finish, to really completely finish this sketchbook. And I'll be working on this in the next week or so. But I did want to do this sketchbook tour before the end of December. So yeah. Lastly, I wanted to quickly go over my failures and successes in this sketchbook. For instance, this bird, this blackbird, and this one, I feel to me are failures because, like I said, my aim was to have finished drawings in this sketchbook, and these really ended up being sort of rough sketches. I've redrawn those blackbirds on separate pieces of paper that came out much better than this. This looks very rough, so I'm not a big fan. Also, this hand lettering is very streaky, and the contrast actually is a little bit all over the place, so that's not the best work. This Japanese anemone drawing, actually for some reason I've never finished, and for some reason I can't bring myself to finish it. I don't know, maybe I'll try, but I'm not sure why I just can't finish it. Let's see. And this is probably the worst page in the sketchbook. I was trying to think of a way to display my little treasures as little objects within a frame of sorts. And so I experimented with some colored pencil background, which then I erased, but colored pencil is very hard to erase, so you can still see. Anyways, that looks very messy. The butterfly wing in itself is okay, but the page is very messy. And yeah, some drawings I like some could use more contrast. Some things are a little bit streaky or unfinished. Now, when it comes to my favorite drawings in here, I would say I absolutely love this rose. I feel I just like it a lot. I also love this moth, sort of mystical moth. It's one of my favorite drawings this year, actually. I love how the eye turned out and all the details, as I was saying earlier. And this piece of coral also I'm very happy with. actually this. I mean, there's a lot of these drawings I really love, and I really enjoy drawing them. This crystal is also one of my favorite this year. The three birds I've drawn recently, I feel came out quite good. And also the eyes I've been drawing also I really love. And this butterfly with the ribbons on top and bottom is actually one of my favorite drawings this year, but the execution isn't the best. It's a little streaky. I think I will redraw it, maybe on a larger piece of paper, with the same concept of the butterfly and ribbons on top and bottom. I feel that could make a really nice print. And yeah, I really love this one. Thank you so much for watching this video, especially if you watched it till the end. I really do appreciate it. In fact, if you did, why don't you put a little flower emoji in the comments to let me know. And also, I would love to hear if there's any of my drawings that stood out to you during this sketchbook journey. And if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, subscribe if you're not already. Actually, subscribing would be really nice. It's Christmas tomorrow. That would be a really nice little Christmas gift. And if you do celebrate Christmas, I wanted to wish you a very Merry Christmas and a happy holiday season. I also know this season can be somewhat difficult for some of you, so if it is the case, my heart goes out to you. I will be back next week with a new video on the 31st. And in the meantime, have a good week and I'll see you soon. Bye!